Alright, sophomores, we have Jake here. Welcome. John's here as well. Oliver, welcome. We won't talk about any juniors here, though, because you don't care about them. Alright, so, that's true. It's so mean that you might cry, which is fitting because we're talking about the Trail of Tears today. And Trail of Tears, we have an image here of the Trail of Tears. As you can imagine, quite unpleasant. So let's figure out why we have a trail full of tears. So in the South at this time, we have 5 major tribes. We have Cherokee, Creek, Seminole, Choctaw, and Chickasaw in what's today Mississippi, actually still at that time, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and Florida. And the problem now is the country's expanding, so the white Americans are seeing that these tribes, they're called the 5 civilized tribes, they need to adopt American so-called customs, namely start farming and making the land what they see as productive. Native Americans are not traditionally farmers, so a lot of leaders see that how they use the land is unproductive. So there's about 25 million acres of land, as you can see on this map, that Americans want to be cleared for white settlers to start farming, namely. And to do this, well, the government has to recognize or claim that the tribes that are living here are under the jurisdiction of the United States. So the first case which is able to justify this Trail of Tears is called Cherokee Nation versus Georgia. And it's a Supreme Court case that decides that Native American tribes have no real legal rights. That they're essentially, if you consider what the rights of a child has with parents, that the parent is the official guardian, and the Native American tribes then have to do whatever the United States government wants them to do. So this case happens in 1831. The next year, however, the Supreme Court changes their mind, and we have our good friend John Marshall, who's still Chief Justice, so still the head of the Supreme Court, and he rules that actually these tribes have sovereignty. They have the ability to govern themselves. And this is essentially saying that the United States has to deal with these tribes the same way it would deal with another country. So in theory, the U.S. can't really tell native tribes what to do. They have to create treaties and negotiate deals with them. However, the president at the time, our friend on the left, Andrew Jackson, does not particularly care for this case, and in fact just straight up ignores people talking during my video. Shh. Yeah, you're done. Alright, so Andrew Jackson just completely ignores this directive from the Supreme Court, and what happens is in 1834, the Indian Territory of Oklahoma is established. If you look at this map here, this is today's Oklahoma, and all these different parts of the state are divided for various tribes. So in Oklahoma now, this is where these tribes are forced to settle. So Indian Removal Act is supported by Jackson and is passed by Congress, and these 4 tribes now, so-called educated, sophisticated, civilized tribes, those that are not accepting Christianity, governments, literacy, written language, they're not now all forced to move. So while many of these tribes end up moving, there is a great deal of opposition to the law, namely the Seminole Wars. So Seminole tribe is located in Florida, And they are not particularly friendly to this directive to move to Oklahoma, and they fight back. In total, so this happens in about 1835, in total the United States government sends, in today's money, $500 million trying to force the Seminoles to move out. And in fact, a number of individuals, Seminoles, they never leave. And to this day, they claim to be the only native tribe in the United States that is able to resist and not sign a treaty with the U.S. government. The other tribes, on the other hand, they, I suppose, don't have as good resistance, and hundreds of thousands of Native Americans are forced off their land. So if you look at this map here, the Seminoles that do leave in Florida, they first take a ship to Louisiana and then walk up to what's today Oklahoma, whereas the Creek, Choctaw, Cherokee, and Chickasaw all march. Depending on the tribe and where they're heading, the lengths of their walks vary, but they're approximately 1,000 miles that the tribes are forced to walk to unfamiliar lands. So in that march, there's, for the Choctaws alone, between 2,500 and 5,000 members died in the walk. And so the other tribes had similar casualty rates. I mean, the Creeks, they were up to approximately 15,000 that didn't survive the journey. So this is the Indian Removal Act. This is the Trail of Tears, and it's going to start a very, maybe perhaps continue a nasty period of relations between the United States government and native tribes that really doesn't start having good relations until perhaps 100 years later.